My name is Millie Louise Bone Russell. Yeah, I'm a faculty administrator at the University of Washington, and that means I'm assistant to the vice president in the Office of Minority Affairs and a lecturer in biology. I teach a three-quarter human biology class. Yes, I was born years ago in Seattle, in the central area, on 24th and Denny, in a big apartment building. My dad and mother were the managers of that apartment. It was called the Douglas Apartments. And on the very first floor on the north side, there was a unit that we lived in. And believe it or not, I and four other siblings in the family, four other girls, were born in that building. Yeah, in a little apartment unit, a bachelor unit, that my parents kept as an infirmary because African Americans really were not welcome into most hospitals unless it was a Catholic hospital, Providence. And we couldn't afford much anyway going to the hospital. So my parents kept that one single unit as an infirmary to take care of people in the building and people in the neighborhood who needed health care. My parents had a real healthy respect for health delivery systems that worked. And the shortage of African American health professionals in those days, in the late 1920s and 30s, okay, the shortage, you could really count on one hand the doctors, African American, that came to take care of us. So as a consequence, that helped my parents focus on the fact that some of us in the family, some of their children had to go into the sciences. I was not focused on the sciences at that time, but we all went to private school, Catholic school, and had strong skills so that when we got to college, we could do well in anything we chose. I always wanted to be a dancer. I thought I was just too cute to be anywhere else. I loved dancing. And I didn't have perfect pitch like all my other four sisters did. My sisters were being eyed for scholarships from Marian Anderson, and then Paul Robeson said, heck, he'd pick up the bill for advanced lessons at Cornish and all that, and in Europe. And so as a result, my mother said, okay, Millie, when you go to college, okay, I want you to study the sciences. So I said, okay. So I liked it, medical technology. So that's how I ended up being a medical technologist, yeah. And eventually got away from dancing, yeah. I was in the first class that graduated from Seattle University in 1948. I was the first African American to graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree in medical technology. When I was in college, we formed a college chapter of the NAACP, and it had students from Seattle University, Seattle College at that time, and then University of Washington. And we were trying to get rid of lynching and get voter rights around the world. Thurgood Marshall came on the scene with the NAACP as a legal officer. And Thurgood polled the leaders across country who were presidents of the college chapters. There were about 8 of us. And he took us south. We saw firsthand how on a bus there would be a sign put for us to sit behind, you know, for blacks only back here and whites up front and all that. And it was such an education, you know. So that helped me to focus on what people were going through and how much they put their lives on the line when they voted and when they did things that here we took for granted that we could do. And it helped me really focus on the history of America. My dad had been involved in the waterfront, in unionizing the waterfront. So I heard that a lot at home, fair play. I thought, wow, this is my chance to live up to the ideals that I've heard a lot about in our home, you know. But it made a big difference in my life, you know, because I knew I wasn't going to make a life as a dancer, okay? And I also knew that civil rights was important, and that was my volunteer work. But I also liked healthcare in making precise decisions on what was important to the patient's wellness. Yeah. Helped me make some real life decisions on where I wanted to be. Yeah. I never really thought before about being a teacher and all that, although I always was thrust in the lab in the role of teaching, you know, just because nobody else wanted to be bothered, I guess. And I always said, well, I'll help you. And then I ended up being the teacher.
She is the innovator of a series of classes that have served underrepresented minorities and given them the background needed to get them started on health science and biology careers and courses. So the difficulty for a lot of students, whether they're from underrepresented groups or also students that have first-generation college students, we call them, whose parents didn't have a college experience, is they are extremely bright. They come to the University of Washington, and it's huge. We're big buildings, we're big classes, especially their introductory science classes, and it's very easy for students, if they don't have a community, if they don't have a background to know how universities work, to feel lost, to feel discouraged, or just not get interested. So what Millie does through the Office of Minority Affairs is she gets to know those students even before they set foot on campus. She knows them from their high school connections, she knows them from their high school teachers, she knows their parents. She encourages them to come to the University of Washington. And when they step on the campus, they immediately have a place to go, the Office of Minority Affairs, someone to talk to, that's Millie and the advisors, and she connects them with people all over campus. And that's something that I think a large public university needs to pay attention to, and Millie has done that for us in biology.
I know we haven't talked about cells. I want you to, if we can today, we'll draw your own epithelial cell.
Millie is a connector. I think part of Millie's greatness is that she can bring people together who might not otherwise meet and get them to see the value of working together. I go all over the country talking to alumni and people who were here back in the early days of Millie's tenure, and everyone, when I say I'm from the Office of Minority Affairs, I get this, is Dr. Millie still there? She touched so many student lives. They always knew that Millie would be the advocate for them if they had concerns or issues, either related to their academic progress or even to their social and family issues that were going on. And Millie had the reputation, and she still does, of stepping in and advocating for students no matter what their concerns. And so I hear it all over the country. How is Dr. Millie? Is she still there? Is she still involved?
Healthy to see.
I know. It looks like a chunk of jello. I sort of
Yeah, it does. They're little. Oh my.
Yes, I like opening doors. I like, and I like being sure that people in laboratories are fair. Because just because you're in a laboratory doesn't mean you've gotten away from racism, you know. And I see that because there isn't an in-your-face civil rights movement right now, that it's easy to go through school and miss the whole message of fair play and to kind of not realize that not always is the world going to be fair. You have to really call a spade, and you have to be a person of integrity to command that kind of attention from those in power. Sometimes, nowadays, students miss that. Yeah. So you have to be sure that students are aware of what's happened and aware of the fact that you're going to run into all kinds of people no matter what job you're in or what focus you have in your career. And you have to learn how to handle that by first being fair yourself and by first getting information from many sources and gathering a support group around you to actually analyze and tease out what's wrong and then how you're going to fix it. Yeah. So you have to know what you're about in your life. Yeah. I don't think we do enough at that level. And probably through our community organizations and probably through the leadership of our churches We need to come together more to focus on that. What are the issues? What are the issues that are keeping one from doing well in school during those formative years? Is school fair? Are teachers fair? That's a whole nother issue. Yeah. Do they have lowered expectations from a child that's different from self? In race, in background, economically, you know? In other words, how do we make sure that everybody gets out of that classroom what they're supposed to be paying for, whether taxes or whether tuition, you know? So I think we have to do a better job of monitoring that, because I think students begin to lose heart in a classroom when they feel they're not valued, you know? And so I'm concerned about that. So I'd like to make a difference in the educational trick of people coming behind me. And I like sharing what I know and making it fun at an early age so that they see themselves in jobs much more important than mine in helping other people. I'm going to be winding down, officially this year. I'm going to be winding down, and I know it's time, you know, because I know my energy level is beginning to wane, and there's some things I want to read some of those books I bought. And I want to travel more. I want to go to Africa and South Africa, and I want to goof off, you know, and party. My idea of a good party is a good meal, a good drink, a good whiskey, and a good book.
Well, I always say I wish I could just clone Millie, because she works harder than anyone in this office. She embodies the kind of employee I'd like to see all of us become in the Office of Minority Affairs, myself included. I think she serves as a role model for all of us, all of the staff here, in her work ethic, her engagement with variety of groups and bringing them into the university, but also taking the university out into the community. I am a new vice president, and part of my mandate or my priorities is to continue the legacy that Millie started. And so I'm just really trying to build on what she started.
Millie is exceptional and has done us in the sciences a huge favor, because she brings the history of the Seattle community to our work. And she brings that knowledge, and she brings that experience, and she brings history of all these people that she knows directly to our students. So one of the things I think that is most important is Millie makes connections. So our students, she listens to what they're interested in, whether it's science or health professions, or maybe it's not going to be science. And she finds the right person in the community to connect them to, so they have a professional role model.
I just think that we really can't, some of us really cannot retire, because we have a message. We've had so many privileges to have the opportunity to go to school and to learn and to travel with people like Thurgood Marshall. My goodness. You know, it's just been such a wonderful, wonderful trip. I guess I'll never really get to retire, because I'm just not going to, yeah.